Hello everyone, this is Kevin Mittge again with the Siuslaw Public Library, presenting part 2 of Beginning Genealogy, or How to Start Researching Your Family History from Home. These YouTube videos are the replacement for my in-person classes that I had planned to hold in March and April. I'm keeping each video fairly short so I don't overwhelm you with information, and at the end of each video I'm giving you an exercise or task or two to give you something to work on while waiting for the next video to be published. So I left you in the last video with 2 exercises. One was to list possible spellings of surnames in your family, which will be useful when searching for ancestors, and the other exercise was to fill out a pedigree chart to the best of your ability. Did you do that? Did you discover that you knew more than you thought you did about your family, or less? Most people who haven't done family history before start to realize what they don't know: specific dates and places, how names were spelled, full names or maiden names of the women in the family, etc. The point of filling out a pedigree chart when you are just beginning family history is to give you a good starting point for your search, and hopefully to get to start looking at specific goals you might have for that search. I do briefly want to introduce you to another form that you can use for recording family history information. This is the family group sheet, also available as a free printable form from Ancestry.com. The address is located at the bottom in the blue URL I have on the screen. You can also just Google family group sheet and come up with a bunch of similar forms. Where the pedigree chart allows you to record your ancestors, the family group sheet records specifics about families. The way the form works is this, and let's assume for the example that this form records your parents, yourself, and your siblings. Okay, first, always remember to use a pencil. In space number 1 at the top of the page, you enter the information for your father. You will notice a lot more spaces to add information than on the pedigree chart, including occupation, christening details, burial information, and a place to list other spouses. In space number 2, you enter the same information, but this time for your mother. Remember to list her with her maiden name. At this point, I usually get the question, what if one or both of my parents remarried? Well, you create family group sheets for each couple. So if your father was married twice, you'd have one form for he and your mother, and a separate family group sheet for he and his other spouse. Does that make sense? Each family group sheet is based on a couple. Now below, in the space marked number 3, you enter the information about each child of that couple in birth order. Now you'll notice that there is less space for information about each child. You can create a separate family group sheet for each, listing them as husband or wife, and then listing their children below. I use forms such as the family group sheet and the pedigree chart when I'm doing initial research and I want to record some basic names and dates as I take notes and work on research problems. But you usually don't go too far in genealogy until you start looking for a computer software program where you can record the information once in a more systematic way. When you record information in genealogy software, the software can create and print pedigree charts, family group sheets, and more from the information that you've entered. You can download software to your computer or use online databases to record your information. Most software does cost, though some offer free versions without all the bells and whistles. Legacy Family Tree is known for offering a very useful, bare-bones version of the software that is free. Other popular software include Roots Magic and Family Tree Maker, and there are others out there. If you choose to record your family information online, you'll need to choose between free or pay sites. Family Search, which is the family history library of Salt Lake City online, allows you to enter information about your family in one huge encompassing world tree. But the trade-off is it can be edited or changed by anyone else who adds information. The pros and cons of that are beyond the scope of this class. Ancestry and MyHeritage offer the ability to build and maintain family trees, though they also charge for that service. The specifics of each of those sites is also beyond our scope today. I would like to show you a couple of screenshots for Legacy Family Tree, just so you have an inkling of what it looks like. Remember how I said these software programs can create pedigree charts and family group sheets from the information you've entered? Well, here is an example of a pedigree chart on Legacy Family Tree. The information is added to the database for each individual, and then you can view that information in pedigree chart format. Pretty cool, huh? And then an example of a family group sheet. Any children entered would be shown in the lower part of the screen. Okay, the next slide appears a bit complex, though it's not really. I always get asked the question about family relationships. For example, what is a great uncle or a second cousin once removed? You can find charts online which explain that, but for purposes of this class, I'm going to walk you quickly through some of the relationships here. I think your direct ancestors are pretty clear to you. Parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and so on. Also, your uncles and aunts are probably pretty clear. Their children are your first cousins. They are your closest cousins and are on the same generation level as you. Now, generation level doesn't have anything to do with age. You can have older and younger cousins in the same generation level. For example, my father was the oldest in his family, and his first child was born in 1948. His youngest sister's last child was born in 1970, a 22-year difference. But despite the age difference, they are still first cousins because they are in the same generation level of the family. Your grandparents' brothers and sisters are your granduncles and aunts, and their children are your parents' first cousins, which is probably pretty clear, while their children are your second cousins. That's still probably pretty clear. Note that you and your first cousins are on the same generation level as the second cousins, but the second cousins are one generation out. Note that I've recorded first cousins once removed up for the children under your grandaunts and uncles. That's because your parents' first cousins are on a different generation level than you. Therefore, they are once removed. So you're asking, why is this important and why do I need to know my cousins? The answer is that in our families, different branches know different bits of family history. Different branches have inherited family documents and family photographs. You want to identify your cousins, out multiple lines. First cousins, second, third, fourth cousins even. Because in contacting them, you may find that they have a great deal of information to share. Which leads to our last two slides and a couple of exercises to work on. You've already written down some of what you know on pedigree charts or family group sheets or in genealogy software. Now you need to review what family documents do you have at home. These are called home sources. Do you have your birth certificate, a passport, a marriage certificate, birth information for your children? If you've had to deal with a spouse's or a parent's probate, do you have a copy of their death certificate? Have you attended funerals of family members and collected those little funeral cards that get handed out? Do you cut and save obituaries? Do you have family letters and photographs? These are just some of the many, many sources you might find just by looking around your house. That is your first exercise for this lesson. Take a look for these sources and start gathering them together and recording the information you find on paper or on the software. Finally, start thinking about who else in your family you might be able to contact for family information. If you don't have any surviving aunts or uncles or parents, what about their children, your first cousins? If you don't have any surviving first cousins, what about their children, your first cousins once removed? You might be surprised at who has what information in your family. You need to identify your cousins, you need to seek them out, and you need to contact them to find out if they can share family information. Okay, I'm going to stop here for today. In the next video, I'm going to talk about going online for information that's available for free. So take care and stay safe, everybody.